Welcome to round 4 of the Parenting Roundabout podcast for the week of October 10th. I'm Terry Morrow, and I'm here with Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
And Nicole Erdix.
Hi there.
As moms of teens and young adults, we've survived those little kid days, yet we're still rethinking the decisions we've made all through our kids' lives and worrying about what's going on right now. Today's Thursday, which means it's time to give in to our obsessing, and today we're obsessing about our kids' food experiences. I was thinking today about food experiences my kids have never had. Like, I remember so warmly my mother making me French toast, dipping the bread in the milk and then frying it with butter and then sometimes she put powdered sugar on it. Butter and powdered sugar. Sometimes we could dip it in jam. Sometimes she'd make Monte Cristo sandwiches had meat and cheese in them, and then we would dip them in jam. It was so lovely. She would make waffles. She had this big waffle iron, and sometimes she'd make waffles with banana mushed up in it. They were so good, and it was so nice and so warm and loving. And she would make macaroni and cheese from her own recipe, which was spectacular. Cheese on the top, all melted and crispy, and then this really delicious cheesy cream sauce. So good. And I look at my kids, and they're like getting frozen Eggos and Kraft out of a box. And my daughter was eating something today that she claims was French toast from, you take it out of the freezer and you put it in the toaster and then it's French toast. And I'm like, that's not French toast. Bread lovingly hand dipped and fried by your mother with powdered sugar on top is French toast. That is a failure of parenting on my part, what you are eating. And it's like, I guess I could do those things, but I'm never gonna. It's not gonna happen. And I feel a little nostalgic for them that they don't get that. My daughter used to go downstairs when my mother-in-law was living in our downstairs apartment. And I think my mother-in-law would make her pancakes that I think involved actually pouring batter onto a griddle and not defrosting something, which is the kind of pancakes we have. Right. But other than that, nobody's done those little cookie things for them. And my daughter was asking me today how you make French toast, and I started to describe to her all the steps, and her eyes glazed over. She will be happy.
Okay, never mind.
The freezer French toast. You could totally learn how to do this, honey, and then you could make some for me. Right. It'll be fine. But are there things that you remember from your childhood that your kids are just never going to eat, mostly because of your personal failings?
Well, as you know, my husband does a lot of the cooking. And the funny thing is that, he grew up with his mom and his grandmother cooking all the time and, making like elaborate things and making their own pasta and their own raviolis and stuff like that. And they never wanted him to be there. He was not really necessarily invited in the kitchen, especially his grandmother was like, get out. No little boys in here while I'm working. But then, when he was an adult, he taught himself how to do these things. So he does, make things with the kids and want to teach them how, how to make gnocchi, how to make ravioli, that kind of thing, which is quite a process, as you might imagine. But it's true that whenever we would go stay with my mother-in-law, she would make really good breakfasts, and the kids, they still remember that. Yeah. But we do have a waffle iron and stuff, and my husband will make waffles.
Really?
And things like that. But I will say, as good of a cook as he is, he's not very good at pancakes. He tends to burn them. Yes. I am better at making pancakes than he is. Not that I do it with any regularity at all. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, certainly my mother, she cooked a lot, even though she had a full-time job. And she, it's just that there were more, you had to make more stuff from scratch at home, I have to say, eat a lot of convenience kind of pre-made stuff, because it's so readily available.
Yes.
Right. And that just wasn't really an option when we were kids. So
yeah.
for better or for worse. That, it's like a pendulum over here. Either we're having something like pre-made from the grocery store or from a restaurant, or my husband is making something like super elaborate that takes 5 hours and uses 15 different pans and appliances and whatever. It's like there's nothing in between. The in between is if I am in charge, which isn't very often. But
yeah, my husband also does all the cooking, but his quest is usually to use fewer ingredients and fewer
pots and pans,
utensils, yes, and pots and pans. It's quite impressive
what he can do with one pot.
Yes, exactly. I don't think I really need to saute these first. I think I could just put them in.
Right.
It's fine. I make no complaints. But we do occasionally mix tuna and kidney beans into the Kraft mac and cheese. That's our big gourmet dish. It's not real mac and cheese like Mama used to make it, but there's a little more effort. That we opened a couple of extra cans,
Right.
Hey, yes. It's actually our friend Brett's recipe that we stole, but still.
The beans and the tuna.
How about you, Nicole? Are there things that you think your kids missed, or are there things that you think you missed that your kids have?
Yeah, I missed a lot that my kids have. I think the only thing from my childhood that, I don't like to do the big family gathering dinners and the Sunday dinners. My mom did that. She did a roast lamb or a roast beef on a Sunday night, and that would be, it was a Sunday night dinner, right?
Right.
And I just did not do that. And she had little traditions, she had baking holiday traditions, which I never really succeeded at keeping. But in terms of what my kids have, oh my gosh, I have so much more than what I had. I mean, I grew up in a very, very remote community that had 2 months of summer, and so nothing grew. Everything was shipped in. It was canned, or it was days old produce. Yeah. And we had limited access to diverse cuisines, right? So we did not, the only restaurant we had in town was a diner. And so my eating out experiences as a child, I kid you not, were when we went to the city, which was 5 hours away, and we went to McDonald's. And that was the first 16 years of my life, was McDonald's. I did not try Asian cuisine or Indian or, any kind of just, European until my early 20s, when I went away to university and moved to the city. And it was very limited, very, very limited. Aww. So for that reason, I think too, I probably could have liked more vegetables as a child. I probably could have broadened my palate as a child, because I ate vegetables in one way and one way only.
So did you have the deadly boiled Brussels sprouts?
Boiled within an inch of their lives.
Everything was boiled.
Worst.
The color, the water was the color of the vegetable. It was they were blanched. They were so boiled. And it didn't have any salt, no butter, no nothing on them.
No.
It was just ugh. Yes. I mean, I was excited when we had a meal that included gravy. The Sunday night dinners would have gravy, and then I could just douse my vegetables in gravy, and then I could eat them.
Drown those vegetables.
Yeah, but everything other than that was just awful. And then I also the way that, just the different ways of getting vegetables and fruits, just different ways of making things, the appliances that we have available to us now. My mom had one pot and one pan, and that was about it. And a hand blender. That was the extent of her. I think when I was 15, she went and got a wok.
Oh,
she was gonna try
my mom had a
cooking.
wok.
I remember that time when they were the thing.
Yeah.
My mom
That was
probably
the big
still
deal.
has that wok. I bet.
I think my mom has hers too.
My mom took a Chinese cooking class.
Yes, so did my mom. She did like a little course through the community center.
Yeah.
And then we had egg foo young for like a year after that.
Fancy.
So I guess I did have an introduction to Asian food prior
There you
to
go.
it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much more in terms of that kind of thing that our kids have access to than we ever did. I mean, even though I wasn't living in such a remote place as you were, Nicole, but you know, it wasn't like we had an Indian restaurant or even like Greek, or it was like Italian and then, you know, your sort of American continental, whatever you want to call it. That was about it. So
yeah, pretty low key.
and I would, you know, I think my kids are they're pretty open to eating a lot of things,
right?
And I think some of that's just temperament, right? I mean, it's not necessarily what you do, but how they are.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
Not every kid is going to be like that, no matter what you feed them at what age. I do remember when I was like 22 or something, I was working at a magazine and I went to babysit the food editor's baby.
Ooh.
Oh.
And so, you know, the baby was like a toddler, you know, she was like 18 months old or whatever. And, she's like, oh, and here's some tofu you can give her, like just like chunks of tofu.
Oh my god!
I was like, oh, well, yeah, I guess that makes sense. You know, it's like pretty soft, and you know, it just tastes like absolutely nothing.
Never in a million years could I. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
You have to give it to the kid before they're old enough to know what it is they're eating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the right consistency for like finger food for a toddler, but I just it was one of those moments where I'm like, oh, you know, sure, that makes sense, but it's just not something I ever would have thought to feed a toddler.
Yes.
Right.
So, but you know, it's vegetarian protein, and it's something they can grab and stuff in their mouth. So there you go.
Wow. Well, on that note, I'm starving and I need to have lunch. I'm not going to be grabbing tofu.
No?
Get the heck out of here, Nicole. Things have taken a desperate turn.
Quickly. Things are going downhill fast. I've got leftover Thai food in the fridge, so I think I'll reach for that. So
Yes.
That's not something you would have had as a girl.
And not at all. Not in the slightest, but I love it. So, right. Well, that's it for today's round 4. Tune in tomorrow and we'll share a roundup of things that we've been using or enjoying lately that we think deserve a shout out. Find all our episodes at parentingroundabout.com and talk back in the comments there, on our Facebook page, or on Twitter, where you will find us at Roundabout Chat.